Hey there. Welcome to NACIS. Hello to all of you and to all the viewers at home. Thanks for bringing this here, as well as a sponsor for the PCD for the live feed. My name is Matthew Hampton. I've worked at Metro, Oregon Metro, for a little over 20 years, and I'm here to talk about print maps or digital maps. Porque no los dos. So let's get started. So a little background information. Oregon Metro is the metropolitan planning organization in the greater Portland area. Serves about 1.8 million people. I work in the planning department, specifically in the transportation planning section. There's 3 counties in the region. The MPO is a layer of government between the state and the counties. So we serve the urban and suburban portions of Multnomah, Clackamas, and Washington County. The population is distributed amongst 24 cities and the unincorporated areas, and so there's a lot of coordination required between planning and sharing data and information. And Metro's sole charter is to plan for the future. As such, we control the urban growth boundary, which gets reviewed every 6 years to make sure that there's a 20-year supply of land for jobs, housing, natural areas, with a goal to stop sprawl into farmlands. And so here you see a distribution of the different cities within the region. But let's talk about print maps or digital maps. How many times have you started a project and you have that choice? Here are some differences between print and digital maps. You guys have seen a lot of this before. But first off, I'd like to get a show of hands of people in the audience who primarily just make print maps. All right, how about those who just make digital maps? How about people who do both? A lot of you. All right, this is perfect. So Porque no los dos? Why can't we have both? Oh, no sound. So there's no sound here. So I need everyone here to say Porque no los dos? Yeah. So why don't we have both? All right. I don't know why my sound isn't working. Anyway. Moving forward, so the MPO of Greater Portland has to update our regional transportation plan every 6 years. So the RTP is a blueprint to guide transportation investments and the funds available for the next 25 years. It's a printed document that has a lot of maps and a lot of print quality maps, and it takes a lot of regional coordination to put this together. It takes about 3 years. Here's a copy of the public review draft. There's a few different drafts we print out, and there are lots of maps in here, including some 11 by 17 maps that have been folded to fit, which is nice that I have that option. Anyway, there's 6 main maps that form the foundation of the regional network and that support our investments, and we coordinate with all the cities and the counties, the state, and the transit service provider to create these vision maps. And here's an example of one of the printed system networks. So this is the regional design classifications, and a lot of these system maps share a lot of similar base material. I used to make these maps by exporting the data out to Adobe Illustrator for finishing, but since they get updated pretty frequently, I now have just been using ArcGIS, using RPro specifically, just because the rendering in RPro is actually really good. Here's a regional pedestrian network, the regional bike network, the regional freight network. This had 4 inset maps to show freight generating areas a lot more clearly, and so this one was printed on 2 sides, because one disadvantage of a print map is you can't zoom in, so you make inset maps. And then we have the regional transit network, and finally the regional motor vehicle network. And so these printed maps are great because you can print them out and share them, email them, print them large, take them to meetings and whatnot. But it is a little bit more difficult to share that information across a broad range of people as print maps. And so for digital versions, I shared out of ArcPro the different composite layers as web tiles and brought them into ArcGIS Online, where I created the 6 individual maps and then loaded them into an application. This is a story map journal with tab maps. Here's a look at the map, a static image of this. I used a static legend for some styling constraints, but here it sits, and this has its own. I created a base map earlier, a multi-scale base map, to make sure that all the boundaries were updated and whatnot. But let's try and be brave here and see if we can get online. We can. So yeah, you can tab across and see the motor vehicle system, see the transit system. Freight might not load. Bike system. And the pedestrian system. And some disadvantages for this are, polygon layers need to be somewhat semi-transparent to get over the top of some of the thematic information. But I use vector labeling on top as well to provide better labeling. So as a precursor to this, I wanted to jump back to the beginning, starting when this project started in January 2015. We needed to work with all these different local jurisdictions to review the previous plan and to update projects for the new plan. And so I made a digital resource guide, which worked out pretty well. I took a combination of different maps and story maps, different apps and story maps, and combined them into a single cascade story map. So here you can scroll down and see the transit systems. You can look at the projects from the previous cycle. Again, there's points, lines, and polygons here. It makes for a pretty messy map, but you can at least click and see what project was there across jurisdictions. I included in a safety map of our high crash corridors, areas where cars have killed or knocked into cyclists as well as pedestrians and whatnot. So you can look at the safety part of the material. Safe routes to school, you can see where there's sidewalks, where there's not sidewalks, where there's schools that have greater need. But this was a really informative way to get the information across to the local jurisdictions. We partnered with a local firm now called Group Trail to build a distributed database in the cloud. And that worked out really well to allow local planners to update projects and send us information within a structured data framework. Here's a look at as what that looks like online, and this worked out really well for us to manage things and also provide an authenticated way for people to see the actual final project lists. Here's a zoom out of the table that included the 1,121 projects worth a total of $42 billion. There's a lot of projects here are sort of aspirational. So we created a division of the projects between a financially constrained list and a strategic list of those projects that probably might not get funded, or at least they'd be down the road. And then we further refined the financially constrained list into two different time buckets: an early time frame for projects that were ready to be built, and a later time frame for projects where there still needed to be a bit more planning on there. But let's get away from spreadsheets. And let's look at some of the printed maps that I was able to make for this document. There was a lot of them, and a lot of these have digital counterparts as well. Especially this final project map, which has just the financially constrained projects on the map, with graduated cylinders or graduated sizes for the proposed cost of the project, and then colored by the different investment categories that we had here. We had information technology, throughways, freight access, transit capital, roads and bridges, and biking and walking trails. And this map has an ID labeled for each particular project, which you'd have to look up in a spreadsheet, or you could use that QR code to look at the online interactive version. Here it is in ArcGIS Online. I had exported out the 3 layers of the different investment timeframes over as feature layers, and was able to style them accordingly. For instance, the near-term projects were a solid color. The far-term adjusted the alpha value a little bit, and then the strategic projects are just a hollow fill. You can also build the pop-ups right there online. It's really straightforward to build those and design and style those in ArcGIS Online, as well as putting them into a final application. You can include a splash screen here with some basic information and add a lot more functionality. You can view the full table if you want to give access to that, as well as there's a view of the pop-up, and then the individual legends, which were a separate static image. we can load that online and look and see. Here's that splash screen. Here's these projects. You can see where they are. The other cool thing about digital online maps that I mentioned is accessibility. You can do them in different languages, and that I think is amazing. We've been working a lot on accessibility for Metro, being able to reach different communities. And this is just a proof of concept. I just ran this through Google Translate, as well as a spreadsheet through Google Translate, and it was pretty easy to update the service definition with this back-end table, and everything got propagated throughout the application. That worked pretty well. So a big thing with color, trying to choose colors that don't shift so much between print and online. If you use a web-safe color within the CMYK gamut, it works for RGB also. So constrain yourself to that CMYK color framework for web-safe colors, and there shouldn't be that much shift between print and digital. And when I say print, I mean lowercase print, not offset press, but on a plotter and an inkjet sort of process. So using ArcPro and ArcGIS Online worked out really well for this particular project to integrate those. And here's also a gallery of interactive maps that I've made for Metro. You can access with this tiny URL. It's being featured right now on ESRI's website in the configurable apps site, and that's what I've got for you today. I wish this sound worked, but we can all say print maps or digital maps, Porque no los dos. All right.
Cool. During questions, could I invite the next speakers to come up and set up their